connections, advocacy. We make sure we fill those gaps.
Nice. How long have you been actively doing that here in Detroit?
For a long time. So it's been a long process, y'all. It's been truly a long process. So I started off on the medical side. And here in Detroit, there were like, once upon a time, there were over 300 dispensaries in the city of Detroit, right?
Okay.
And then they were like, we need to figure out some type of regulation. So at that time, we were trying to find out who were from Detroit. Because there's a lot of outsiders coming into the city of Detroit, setting up shop, cash business,
right.
Nothing going back into the community, no reinvestment, right? So we went to go seek to find out how many Detroiters and black and brown people were in the industry. And we only found 30 out of 300, right? So that's kind of where the advocacy kind of began. On the medical side, we lost that battle on the medical side. We were only able to get 10 black-owned dispensaries right now, currently in the city of Detroit.
Wow.
Out of 71.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, that's like, there's a lot of that going across the whole cannabis industry no matter what, because when it does come to black and brown, you need a lot of capital. So you got these major state operators that just come into these areas of disproportion, put up their store, and give us nothing back, right? They might hire a few people, but those people that they hire sometimes are not even local, like you said, to the area. They might be people who just moved to the city for the advantage, right? So I like what you're doing so far, and I commend you for, trying to get the legacy operators to get in on the ground floor, because pretty much we won't have any opportunities like this, because this is the start of a new endeavor. They're still building regulations across different states, and some states are not even online yet. And then eventually, once these business goes cross-state and you can actually do interstate business and interstate commerce, it's going to open up a bigger kind of revenue return for a lot of people. So it's important and it's imperative for us to learn how to operate and manage these businesses as they do, or even better, so we can get some kind of footholding in that.
Yeah.
So what are those channels that you guys tapping in to provide that for them?
So we have Black Cannabis Access. That's the overall organization. And then inside of that, we have a Pathway to Legal course and program. It's paid services. And we literally listen, what is equity to you, right? To us is making sure that we provide information and resources no matter what your experience is, no matter what your background is, because nobody learns the same and everybody has different experiences. And that's what's different about us, because when you get programs from the state and from local municipalities, they treat you as if you are like everybody is the same. Everybody has, but there's like a 40% illiteracy rate in the city of Detroit, right? So you have to be able to provide programming that's accessible and that people can actually implement, and that's what equity is to us. So we started Pathway to Legal, and we literally hold our students' hand step by step through the process. And that way we're able to cater to them and meet their needs.
Gotcha.
Yep, so outside of that, once you finish that program, we provide you with resources with experts and shareholders, actual licensees in the industry that are Black, that can give you a story that is different than how everybody else is moving in the industry. And then you get filled with that, and then you go on to our next part. Our third leg is that we're providing spaces, affordable spaces, to social equity applicants so they can hang their licenses, because there's no property. So outside of the money that you just spoke of, there's no property.
100%. That is one of the biggest thing across the whole board when it comes to social equity program that I've noticed is that, okay, great, you've awarded me some kind of statue in the state that I can get into the cannabis industry. Okay, great, you've given me some fees waived for certification. That's great. But then when it comes to actually obtaining the property, that's where the struggle starts, because landlords, once they find out that this is part of the green rush, or they change their prices from when you call in initially, and then there's no regulation behind that, so you have to pay what the landlord wants. Now there's other routes where, okay, what do you want me to do, purchase some property? Again, not everybody's going to have that kind of equity to sit down and say, okay, I got such and such, and maybe I can take out a percentage of this, and then maybe I can go purchase this commercial lot. But then you have to put the time in with that lot, because not everything's going to happen overnight. There's going to be a couple months where you're going to have to do some host community agreements. You have to let the town know what you're doing, and then what's the next steps after that. And then you're gonna have to have your build out, then you're gonna have to have your walkthrough, and then that's just the start. And then you need to get the product on the shelf. Now if you're not producing the product, then you're gonna have to go to somebody else, and that's gonna be another cost that's gonna go towards you. So I mean, at the end of the day, it looks great, it sounds great, but like you said, sometimes it seems like they set us up for sabotage. And us providing that information, such as what you're doing, I commend you on that, because we do need that breakdown. Me personally, it took me a minute just to understand the whole game that I just spewed. It's not like I just knew it out of anywhere.
Right.
I had to go through some shit just to get to this point where I can give you that flow of what's going on. But before that, man, nobody wanted to even talk to us. There's places in Massachusetts, what they did is they just didn't even answer the phone for 2 years. They didn't even answer the phone for 2 years. So if it came to properties, you couldn't even get anything, because even if you approach the town wasn't listening to nobody when it comes to social equity or cannabis. So
and that's terrible.
Yeah.
For people who have been there, lived there, invested there, paid taxes there, and you can't seize this huge opportunity in your own community. That, to me, so I called it that economic genocide, because this is a huge opportunity. It can create generational wealth. It can create a huge impact in our community, and yet we can't produce owners out of this, out of cannabis, out of the weed industry. What?
So it's just like how it always been, and how they want it to remain. We can move the packs, but you can't be the producer. And when it comes to the cannabis business game, that's how they're looking at it. Y'all can be the consumer, but y'all can't come here and run the business. No, we don't want that anymore. The opportunity is ours, because as our culture, we pretty much defined how cannabis built this culture. Because, like I said, Jed can grow, Bill, whoever the fuck you want to call it, can grow that shit in the mountains back in the day. But he can only sell it so much and in his town, because everybody's got it. He had to depend on people in the urban industry where they weren't able to grow acres and pounds for them to get a return on it. Now that we have this legal thing across the board, we no longer have to be in the mountains. We can actually produce these things within the city limits. That kind of cut out some people in the industry, and they mad about it. But it's okay. We still have an opportunity. And I always emphasize that there's more than one opportunity. You don't have to grow it, okay? You can get into it in other aspects, because you're going to need people to print shit. They're going to always need somebody to make some cannabis logo. You're always going to need somebody to make some kind of apparel wear. So there's other opportunities that we can get into. And I understand that they feel as though that growing it is going to be the ultimate. But believe me, they're going to need people to move it too. They're going to need people to manufacture it too. So those avenues is what we also need to invest ourselves in, and also look at how we're producing the medicine. That's another thing where I feel the landscape is going to change in a couple of years, because currently this industry is under more of what we call salt, which is more chemical fertilizer. And to me, that's not really true medicine. We need to learn how to cultivate it organically and produce the medicine that really helped people in the past, because that's where the cure came from. It came from clean, organic meds, not what we have right now. The Budweiser is what I call it, in a sense, when you're making pretty much a whole bunch of cannabis and it don't taste good, it don't do shit. They put it in this fancy ass bag, and you buy the bag, you bring it home, and you like, God damn, I could have just went around the corner and see, Steve, man, Steve got that fire. Steve in there growing this shit in his basement, and he's making that fire. I can go see him real quick. So at the end of the day, the situation is changing, and we need to make sure we're prepared ourselves to change with it. So besides that, let's get into a little bit of you a little bit. So why cannabis? When was your first time that you fell in love with cannabis? Because you got a little passion behind it, so you must have some love for it.
I do. I don't know. I've been in the industry since like 97. So it's just been something that, I've had to rely on to feed my family. So I love it because it not only does that, but it's also have healing properties. It does good. It's, I resonate with it because I use it, and just to watch this industry move in this direction. When I would have been considered a drug dealer. You know what I mean?
Right.
What? And then so now it's running out. You're a bud tender, and then you're all these words, and I just simply have the passion for it because I know it's people not only like myself who have a story. Who I think should be in this industry making this money.
Right.
You know what I mean? But my corners where I grew up at, they get to pop up and open up a store like that. Right now they have a lawsuit in trying to get 5 of their dispensaries open, and we're struggling just to get 1 open. So my passion just comes from that. It's just like, so I don't want these barriers to continue for us to move forward in this industry. So if I got to read something that somebody doesn't understand, that's fine. This is a whole nother language.
Right.
You can sit here. People don't even know what terpenes are. You know what I mean?
That's
how many people you run into and they sativas and indica hybrid, that just came about a few years ago.
Yeah.
On a wider scale, those words been out here, but people don't really know these nuances, these in and outs, and then so that's where my passion comes. Meeting you today was just like, you doing something new and different in the industry,
Hey, we try to give the education when it comes to what's the true medicine, and the true medicine itself, to me, is hash, right? Hash is something that I find that if you make the right hash, you only need a little bit, and that medicine works so well in so many different ways. You can do with it just what you do with the chemical stuff. You can make the edibles with it. You can make the salves with it. You can make the tinctures with it. And what it does is it provides a more full spectrum based on how you collect it of a medicine, and versus where it's the true essence of the plant, because you're removing that medicine from the plant, from the material itself, and then you're left with those trichome heads, that sticky icky that we all look at.
Right.
That's the shit that we do when we make hash. We take that sticky icky off of the material and we separate it and dry out that resin, and then you do whatever you need to do with it. Some people press it out, they make the rosin. Some people leave it as is, and then they throw it into recipes. So at the end of the day, this medicine has been around forever. It's a plant medicine that we as people enjoy and have used over the years. Yeah. And because of how society is based now with more chemicals, we're losing that essence. And this is why I'm trying to bring this to light so we can understand the difference of what true medicine versus what is just an ROI for a company. And to bring to your point, with these MSOs, these multiple state operators, they come out here, they try to take over areas where people should have an opportunity, and they don't even want to work with anyone because they're just trying to take all the profit and not give it back. And this is why we need to be more educated ourselves and understand what needs to be done, because they have the same thing going on too. They even though they're the owners, they got the people that understand the logistic and the language, and they pay them to make sure they get their agenda done. That's what we need to understand, that collectively as folks, we need to start working together so we can get to that point. Because I tell people, man, you think Nike has only one owner?
Right.
No. There's multiple owners based on the region, based on the state, and they all come together and work as a team. And that's, what we have to think about as legacy operator. We're not used to working as teams. We used to just working within our own little thing, and that's it. But if we want to get into this industry, look, y'all going to need to link up together and create a bigger brand than what Nike has. You're going to need like 2,000 bosses altogether. Right. I'm not joking. Yeah. We're going to need like 2,000 bosses. And people think like, damn, that's a lot of ego. Yeah, it's a lot of ego. But if we want to control like how these MSOs are doing, we got to move like how they moving. And then that's what this comes down to, Yeah, so, it does. It may sound a little harsh, but it's reality in a sense, because that's how they moving. Think about how, like there's a blue label. I won't call out the name, but there's a blue label. And what he did is the same thing. He bossed up. He clicked up with all the bosses within different regions, and then they just eating with him. We need to think like that. We all want to have our own label. We all want to have our own brand. But at the end of the day, we all can't be number one, man. We need to have a bigger brand representing everybody, and everybody needs to eat underneath that brand. Yeah. So, again, when it comes to especially being a legacy operator and making that conversion into the legal market, it's hard to make that transition because, again, you can't really trust certain folks because they're not part of what you is. But y'all in the same fucking business. Yeah. It ain't now it's a whole different thing. Your perspective, your mindset got to change a little bit, because if you want to be like, in this cannabis industry, you have to click up. Look at Northern Cali and the Mendocino County. All them growers up there, a whole bunch of them. What they did is they all clicked up. They all working together. Yeah. We need to think like that out here, because if we don't do that, then you're not going to get the opportunity. They're going to come with their team.
They coming with their team. They coming with everything they got. And I tell the 10 dispensary operators that survived and is trying to survive, I'm like, y'all got to make sure y'all stick together, because can you imagine once Detroit opens up the gate, they will be walking in on the day, opening day, with these big MSOs, right? These are the disadvantages getting into this industry are. 100%. And we can't any longer be on our own islands. Being on our own islands is not working for us as a people. It's just too many outside impacts that continuously that are there, just like they're using the weapon of the law, being able to sue when things are not going their way. That's what they're doing in the city of Detroit. I don't know what they did in Boston. I know social equity across the country is definitely struggling, right? Yeah. And every time each city opts in and they talk about how these social equity programs are so huge, and social equity is going to be doing this and that. And as soon as they open up the doors, it's like, one social equity applicant got in, one got licensed.
So, right now in the state of Massachusetts, there's an opportunity. There's a few SEs, social equities, that are up and running. But what had happened is some of them are not truly by themselves. They had to partner up with some of the MSOs, or they had to get outside investors to get on board. And when you look at it, they're not really a major stakeholder in regards to, on return. So it's a game. It's a numbers game. I feel when you look at it, because look at what I'm doing here for social equity for my community. It's like the new like I'm helping, but it's really truly not helping. Because going back to what you said, if you can't hold the property, how can you advance in the business? If you can't afford the property, how can you advance in the business? All right, you got the property and you're up and running. Now you still need to supply it. Depends on what you're doing. And then if you decide you're going to do cultivation, you're not going to see your first return for a year, because those few harvests or those few first crops that you grow is just a payback for what you got invested in regards to light, maybe in regards to construction. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of misinformation when it comes to what the industry is about, and people have to understand that if you really want to get into it, it's just like a normal business. So the mentality of what they're giving us, right, meaning that we as legacy operator coming into this industry, we're going to have to wash that away and get on some business shit in order to survive this thing, because, as I said, unity is going to be stronger. Look, it's easy for you to bend one straw versus 10,000 straws. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So if we're 1,000 strong and you try to bend it, it ain't gonna happen. But if we just got what you said, 10, it's gonna be real easy to bend that 10. And they're gonna do what they do because they got lobbyists. They have people who got long money that would just pour it out, because what they're looking at is, what's the return in 5 years if I give this much out now? When you come from the legacy end, we don't even operate for 5 years down the line. We just trying to eat.
Right now, we're in survival mode.
Exactly. So that shit right there is like, when we get into it, we gotta understand that we can't think about how we gonna eat. We need to think about how is this gonna be created as a tool for us to pass down generational wealth, and that means understanding how this business flow and how it works.
Yeah.
And that takes a little bit of change in your practice and ways, but it's possible, So let's switch back to you, because I'm here doing a little soapbox thing right now. Because
I'll be sucking it in, talk about that all the time.
So there's nothing wrong with that, because we do need to talk about it more. I do have some people who have come online with their delivery business in Massachusetts. I even had some people who are online right now where they're doing retail and their own manufacturing. So, they're producing what they need to produce to put on the shelf. So at the end of the day, there's a few people online. Should there be more? Hell yeah. But the way how these MSOs are moving, they're moving like, man, like I said, they understand the language of the law, and they're moving some type of way.
They understand the money too.
Yeah,
they throw us mad money, and they got it to burn.
And that's it.
They got it to burn. Make mistakes.
And they have the arsenal behind that to keep on going, even if they do make a mistake, right? Because if they get fined like $500,000, me and you get fined $500,000, and we just we're like, shit, might as well just pack this shit up.
Yeah.
But to them, they're like, $500,000,
right?
Here you go, They keep it rolling. Yep. So they, to them, these fines that they produce and they tell that you're gonna get fined for this, sometimes they don't care, because they have the money to cover it.
Yeah.
But if we're just starting out, we got to care a whole hell of a lot. We ain't got time to be paying $100,000 for violation every day.
Right.
No. And that's the thing about business. We need to think about it that way, that if we're a bigger group, a bigger collective, things can happen. And, right now there's a division, and the division needs to be, we need to be 1,000 straws or better. We definitely need to do that. And
we need that. This is a great opportunity, Black and brown people. So don't be scared. Shed all of that fear and just really just jump in. We are all. And this industry is literally still on the bottom ground level. Like in Michigan, there's only 100 and I think maybe 175, somewhere around there, communities that are opted in out of 1,700 municipalities in the state of Michigan. Like, there's still a whole lot of state to go in Michigan. So I just want you all, like, across the country, there's urban markets everywhere. Every state there's urban markets. This is our time to really control an industry in our own community, something that we're familiar with, something that we don't have to go to college for. You know, we don't need all of these degrees. You can literally get into the cannabis industry if you push yourself into to gain the information and the connections and the networks and the supports. You got to go after it, but it's opportunity, mad opportunity, right? Just mad opportunity.
Right. So let's switch it up a little bit. The pandemic. You know, when that came around, did it slow you down or did it make you go harder?
It made me go harder. BCA was actually born out of the pandemic. It really was. We were going around. We were actually had started. So the state social equity just came aboard on the state, and that shit was nobody was giving that information to the hood. Nobody was coming to Detroit like, you need to do this and this and this in order to receive the discounts on the state level. So that's where when I worked with the state with the social equity program, and I saw they pushed that mess out, I jumped in and I started to fill that gap to provide that information for free to the community. Like, look, here, get these discounts, get these little peanuts. Every little bit is gonna help. So, you know, that's kind of, and at that time we were doing them face to face, and when the pandemic happened, I had to be forced to go online. So,
gotcha.
And I've been online ever since.
So you pivot and you just kept on moving.
Yeah, just kept on moving.
Yeah, that's what's up. So let's talk about, you know, if somebody's like, well, shit, I want to do what she's doing. What's 5 tips can you offer somebody that they want to get into this advocacy work? What are 5 tips can you offer them? You know, we got to get deep, man. We got to get deep. You know, we got to let them know. If you can't do 5, we can do 3. You want to do 3?
I don't know. I'll try.
All right.
I'll try.
All right.
You want to do it what I do. Lord, it's not glamorous at all. You are hated. It's like, you got to have the love. You got to really truly have the love and the passion for your people, as well as it's in economics. Too often we get into these passion projects and you want to do good, but you forget about the money aspect of it. Gotcha. And then that makes it difficult for your cause to really go anywhere, because you need money. You need money to push, the marketing piece, to get it out there to your people, to it costs money, to knock on doors if that's a strategy. Creating flyers for campaigns and things like that. So, just don't just think like this is wrong and this is passion, and I understand that piece, but don't forget about the money. Don't be shy about the money at all. And I think a lot of organizations, specifically Black and brown organizations, we forget about the money, almost as if we're fearful or like it's so evil to think about money being part of these good projects. Right. Okay, so I would say like that's number 1, and then number 2, for sure, having your passion for your people. People. Like, this is 2022, and then Black and brown people are still kind of going through the same shits, right?
Right.
We just seen what happened in Brooklyn, not Brooklyn, Buffalo.
Oh.
And
just for a moment, we want to say our condolences to those who were lost in Buffalo, New York. It was a very just an evil person. That's all I'm gonna leave it at. Okay. Moment of silence. Ashe.
So though that's an example, is like these are things that are continuously happening to Black and brown people, but we are so resilient and we just brush that off and we just keep it moving and we keep it moving. So when we see these things, next thing is mindset, because mindset, you have to understand and have empathy for for Black and brown people. When we oftentimes I get in these conversations with people that don't look like me, is they like almost like, hey, you got boots, strap up those shoelaces and, keep it moving. I did. I was able to do this. I was able to do that. Mm-hmm. But when you're in this type of world and advocacy, you have to think about, you have to have empathy and know the history, how we got here. Mm-hmm. And Black and brown people have gone through hell, and we're still here, and we're still going through it. Psychologically, we have been fucked over. And that just allows us and hinders us for real from creating relationships. We haven't gotten any healing from our trauma. So you have to be able to walk this pathway knowing these things and move accordingly. I approach people with empathy because they know I haven't went to get any therapy of my trauma. You know what I mean? This is growing up in urban areas. You have some level of trauma. 100%. Period. 100%. You have some level of trauma. So the mindset. Make sure you start healing yourself and working on yourself and making sure that, when you encounter someone that you don't automatically snap, you know what I mean? And you come from a different perspective and of a place of love and giving and wanting to share. So that's 3. And then 4 and 5 will probably be... you gotta love to be able to read, and because it's a whole lot of reading. This shit is boring. Like, this is not entertaining stuff to be talking about the law, reading the law, having to break it down. That shit is not fun, and that's probably why most people like that regulation shit, compliance. You're literally reading, 50, 100 pages at a time. So you gotta be able to read, right?
Yeah. And they set that up, the language is what they call it. The language of the law, right, is where you have to decipher what the hell they talking about. Yeah. Because they want you to do that. They want it to be confusing, because if it was simple, then everybody would be doing it, right? So yeah, you have to go through those laws. You have to go through these bylaws. You got to go through these recommendations. And, what I do is you just take them in small chunks. You don't have to do the whole 125 in regards to this new regulation that they're trying to apply. But you have to keep up with it, because if you don't keep up with it, that's how they make changes that affect you.
That's right. All the time. They do it all the time. The cannabis industry, the way that it has evolved, you can literally see every piece of, it's a display of how Black and brown people have not been able to evolve economically. Mm-hmm. If you really look at how this industry went from the caregiver patient model all the way to this regulated side, and then the regulated side now are trying to eliminate the caregivers. Like, I'm watching all of this play out. Mm-hmm. And just that dynamic in itself just gets me to understand, like, look, we got to be on something different. We have to level up. Definitely level up in this industry, right?
Yeah, definitely. Those are great tips that she provided you in regards to advocacy work. Advocacy work where you get to see just that 10, 15 seconds when they're on TV or you read an article. It takes years of advocacy work before you get that reflection of what's being done. And, due diligence. You need to do a little bit of reading, a whole lot of reading, and once you understand the language and they make changes to different types of regulations, then, you're already ahead of the game, because you already understand the languages, so you can see what the new languages that they're trying to introduce. And then, what I would advise anyone, and I'm still not doing it myself, but I'm going to still throw it out there, is to get involved locally, because everything has to go through a local process. You see what I'm saying? So you need to get with your town meetings and know what they're talking about when it comes to cannabis, because it still has to go through them. And, once you understand the temperature of how your town is responding to marijuana or cannabis, however you want to say it, then you can set your tempo based on that. Yeah. Because if your town's not for it, then you might need to be that advocate to give them the education as far as what are the great benefits besides, just, getting medicated off of it. We got to look at the benefits of where we can provide jobs for the community, and we can reinvest back with the community from this money that this plant can produce. Instead of these MSOs coming in from out of state and taking all the profit back to where their headquarters are at, and you ain't getting shit. You ain't getting no new swing. You ain't getting no new park. Your roads ain't getting fucking fixed. So all of that shit is needed, yeah. Regardless, even if you ain't getting into the cannabis industry. If you don't like what your neighborhood's doing or what the situation is, you need to do some local work with your local government and just go to those town meetings, because, eventually what's going to happen is, and what they're doing across all boards, is instead of having all the talk go through the town meeting, they're creating these commissions, these cannabis commissions. And these commissions, you need to really go to them, because they're the ones setting the language for everything across the whole fucking state. So you need to start going to the, if you're like, I know New York has one, I know Massachusetts has one, I don't know where else, but those cannabis control meetings, those commission meetings where they just deal with the regulation of cannabis in your state, show up, start going there, because that's where the languages are being, created, and those are the ones that they're bringing to the House, and those are the ones that are getting passed, or they're the ones that's coming from the House, and they're saying, what's the temperature on this? If you're not there to understand what that temperature is, then you're going to get left out.
Yes, 1,000%.
Again, I'm ranting. I need to leave it on you.
No, you're good. It's all good.
So let's talk about you some more. When it comes to your mindset, what is one way that you, or what tool do you use when it comes to advocacy? Like, I know some people, you just mentioned reading, but what is it that you use and you can provide to somebody to say, this is a certain tool that helps me daily?
Being around good people, energy, that definitely is probably one of my. I protect my energy so much. I am not around no bullshit. I am not around toxic people. If I see some toxic shit, I'm running the other way, because I understand that doing this advocacy work, you have to have your mind in a certain place. You know what I mean? So I recognize that now. Because this is hard work. It could take a lot out of you. People are constantly calling you because they need help. So for you to be available, you got to make sure that your mind is right and your energy is right. You know what I mean? You can't pick up the phone like rah 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 rah. Even if you had a bad day.
That's right.
If you're catering and you are a person of service, you have to make sure that you work on yourself, your energy, your mind, health.
That's what's up. Yeah, that's a good tip. Self-regulation of one's energy is important, because there's just demons out here, y'all. There's just people out here that just want to take your energy, and they just take it because that's how they operate and that's how they're raised, and they don't understand about giving back. So at the end of the day, protecting your energy is very important. So let's jump into some Terp Nation questions before we round this out.
Terp Nation.
So when it comes to flowers, what's your favorite 3 flowers that you like smoking on?
Damn, because that's going to show my age.
If you ain't got to bring it back, you can just let them know what's going on, like what you like,
I really like cherry pie and Wi-Fi.
Nothing wrong with that.
Those are probably my top 2, and then if I were to come, I don't even know what's out here. It changes weekly now. So
one more that you like. Yeah, and it don't have to be something that's present. It's what you like, because what people got to understand is even though there's so many different strains and so many different kind of flavors out there, it only works what works for you.
That's right.
All right, so I'm not gonna tell what I like, 'cause then I'm gonna age myself. But I'm just saying, just give them one more flower that you like.
I would say, I loved platinum cookie at one point.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a little platinum cookie. So let's talk about when it comes to concentrate.
Okay.
Do you like solvent or solventless?
So I am not a big concentrate.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm not a big concentrate person.
Okay.
So the last time I had concentrate, it was bad. I was high for like 3 days.
What about the little bit you had earlier? How did you like that hash?
So the hash was so smooth. It was so smooth, and I enjoyed that. Like, I can do that.
Right. See, there you go. So maybe you like hash.
Maybe I like hash.
There you go. Nothing wrong with a little hash. All right. Let's talk about, I don't know if you've ever grown before, but if you have not grown before, either way, you can still apply the question whichever way. When it comes to the cannabis, do you prefer to be organic or salt-based?
So I grew for 2.2 seconds.
2 seconds. Man, that's a new record right there.
And so you said
I'm sorry, organic or made with chemical, meaning like salt, where it's poured out of a bottle, or you use powder and just mix it into the water.
Right. I got you. So that's a tough question. All right, so
for your 2.2,
organic,
what did you do?
So
what did you do?
I did hydro and I did chemicals, right?
Mm-hmm. So when you get the smoke, what you prefer?
I mean, definitely organic is like so much better.
Okay.
It definitely is.
So
but when we're moving to the regulated side, there's still organic ways to do hydroponically, but most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm not gonna twist your arm on it, because I'm all about living soil and keeping it kind to the earth.
Yeah.
Anything outside the scope of that is still, to me, not really organic.
Okay.
So I understand that people feel as though that because the bottle says organic, that shit don't mean that
That's
it's
true.
organic, because organic is something where the soil does the work itself and regulates it through the plant. The plant uptakes it itself and breaks it down. Versus where when you do anything else where you feed the plant, it's now being chelated, and now the plant pretty much takes in whatever you're putting out through the bottle. So that's just my stance. There's always going to be people who feel as though that, you can still be organic, but you can use a sterile medium. To me, no, because that's not the same thing. But there's always going to be that, that again, people have their own thoughts on what they believe is cleaner or what they believe is organic. I'm not here to force my thought on anybody. I'm just here to, ask what's your opinion on it, right? So
yeah.
I understand that, you might prefer the organic because it might taste better, right?
It does taste better.
And it might smack a little harder, don't it? I'm just saying.
It does. And I have the, like, my growers are like, I still have people who is organic, and then I have people who want to do hydro.
Right.
And for maximum output and less intense work intensity, hydroponics is just especially if you're going on the regulated side, that's just where it's going. Moving pots and dirt is just kind of intensive.
Well, I know a lot of facilities that still do what they need to do. Again, it all depends on how you do it. You can produce just like you would, but it's the effort that's needed when it comes to that. There's a little bit more work. You need a little bit more people to do what needs to be done when you're doing it organically, versus if you're doing it salt, you can actually have less people because everything is more on a schedule and they can attend to the plants more. You know? So when you're doing it organically, it's a more hand-fed process where you have to be more attentive to the plants, and the plants are larger because you're producing naturally versus where you're pushing a plant. So
yeah, for sure.
I understand the ROI is part of the business. It's cool. I'm not here to knock anybody's business. I'm just saying, you do what you need to do. I'm here for the home growers always. Do what we need to do over here. So as long as you're producing clean medicine at home, that's the overall goal. We don't want you to produce chemical medicines. There's no need for that. Let the business people handle that chemical end, and then the home growers handle that nice organic medicine, and you do what you need to do.
We need the home growers so bad. I just hate that what's happening to the home growers. We're fighting 3 bills right now to keep the caregivers alive in Michigan. It's sad.
It is sad, and that's just the bottom line, that these MSOs don't want to. They're trying to cut it out. They're trying to figure out ways like, well, we get rid of the caregivers, they'll have to come to us. That's not what's going to happen. I'm going to just let you know right now, MSO. Just remember, MSO, this motherfucking plant's been grown before you came on here with your fucking business, bro. And if you think that you can just cut out caregivers or create some kind of law, guess what, MSO? Motherfuckers been doing it before these laws came around, so they're going to do what they have to do at the end of the day. So you keep on doing what you're doing. What you're going to do is alienate yourself, and then pretty much you're going to end up losing. That's what I'm going to say about that. So,
agreed.
I
love it, yo.
So with that said, thank you for answering the Terp Nation questions. I understand the passion of what you're doing. We appreciate you doing the advocacy work. If you want to plug in your social media network so people can know how to link up with you.
Cool, yep. We are on Instagram as Black Cannabis Access, and Facebook, Black Cannabis Access. You can reach us at 313-437-2733. Again, that's 313-437-2733. And email info@pathway2legal.com. info@pathway2legal.com. Yes, anytime. Have any questions? Social equity needs to be in every urban city, and we need to make them accountable. Make it work in every urban community. Don't bow down. Let's link up and make sure that social equity works in your city.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for coming on. And guys, don't forget, I don't have any sponsors yet, but if you can just, do a little like, a little share, comment, tell me what you think. It helps out the algorithm. And don't forget, Terps of the Beast Coast, appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Cannabis.